Hello there, my friend. Thank you for joining me for this special video. This is to celebrate passing 4,000 subscribers on this channel. It leaves me speechless. I can't believe that many of you have subscribed to this channel. It really means so much to me, and it's been so great chatting to you in the comments and getting to meet so many new friends and film lovers that I can chat to all of the time. So I want to say thank you to you first of all. So what better way to celebrate 4K subscribers on the channel than talking about 4K Blu-rays? Now, I get asked an awful lot about whether I collect 4K Blu-rays, have I made the transition upgrading to 4K? And the answer is yes, I have. I own about 50 4K Blu-rays, which is not as much as some other people on YouTube. Some people have hundreds and hundreds of 4K Blu-rays. One of the channels that I'm a big fan of on YouTube is Films at Home. So Jeff over on that channel, he talks about all sorts of 4K news. He does 4K Blu-ray reviews, and he's like an expert on 4K. So he's brilliant. I'm not as knowledgeable on 4K as him, because obviously my speciality is the boutique Blu-rays and Criterion and stuff like that. But like I said, I've got a small collection, and I thought let's celebrate this by presenting 5 of my favourite 4K Blu-ray films. I don't do any blind buying for 4K Blu-rays yet, so all of these are absolute classic favourites of mine. These films mean so much to me, and I just had to own them in the 4K format. Now, I'm not going to mention any of my 4K steelbooks in this video just to differentiate it from my last 4K video, but I will link that video down below if you want to check out all of my 4K steelbooks. Okay, I'm rambling way too much now, so I'm just going to get into the films themselves. The first one is Unforgiven. This is directed by Clint Eastwood, starring himself, Morgan Freeman, Gene Hackman, among so many other great actors. This is one of my all-time favourite films and an absolute brilliant Western with a twist. I say Western with a twist because Unforgiven came out in the 90s, and it was very much looking back at the Western genre as a whole. And I think at that point in the 90s, people probably thought the Western is dead. And people still say the Western's dead now, but they are still making quite a few good Westerns. Clint Eastwood, obviously a massive figurehead in the Western genre, with his works in the spaghetti westerns in particular. What Eastwood does in this film is he takes the classic Western archetypes and flips them on their head. And in doing that, it makes the film a lot more real, because the central hero character is maybe not as good as you think he'd be. Like he does a lot of bad stuff, and a lot of the characters in this film do a lot of bad things. So in that respect, it's a great dissection of the genre, and I think this is responsible for a lot of modern Westerns being what they are. This kind of set the tone for what came after it. This 4K Blu-ray disc looks so much better than the older Blu-rays of the film, and something that is a talking point amongst the 4K community is the issue of grain in an image, so noise actually in the picture of the image. People don't seem to realise that films that are older and that were shot on film and not shot digitally are going to have noise and grain in the image, and that's actually part of the aesthetic of the film. Like, that's actually wanted. Like, people actually want to see the grain in the picture, believe it or not. So some people that are just into like clear, crisp digital images don't like a lot of these older movies on 4K, and they say they look bad even though this is the best the film has ever looked. So that's an argument for another day, but I love Unforgiven, and this Blu-ray, this 4K Blu-ray, looks amazing. Next up, another of my all-time favourite movies. It's The Matrix, directed by the Wachowskis. I love this film so much. A lot of it is nostalgia, but I actually think it's a tremendous film that really does hold up, and it's so visionary and has set the tone for a lot of sci-fi action movies since. This is a great 4K disc. First of all, there are 4 commentaries on the actual 4K disc, which is absolutely amazing and means you can revisit this so many times. The actual image on the disc, though, is the best this film has ever looked. For ages in the UK and in the US, there was the traditional Matrix Blu-ray, which didn't look great in my opinion, and it was tinted blue. It looked very, very blue. As you know, with the Matrix, it's meant to look green. So this brings back the green and it gets rid of the blue. And just the detail in the picture, and again, the grain on this looks good. I really love this, and one of my favourite films. I bought this when it came out, so it did come with this slipcover, which I don't know if it's available anymore. I do know there's a 4K steelbook out there as well of the film, which I don't own. Maybe I'll have to get one day. I love The Matrix. For me, this is one of my all-time favourite films, and this is one of my favourite 4K Blu-rays. If you're enjoying this video about my top 5 4K Blu-rays, please do consider subscribing to the channel, because I do so many videos about Blu-rays and Blu-ray collecting, and I would love to do more videos about 4K Blu-rays, so let me know if you'd like that. Anyway, back to the video. So these next 3 4K Blu-rays are all tied for first place. They're all brilliant. The presentation of each of these films and the packaging is great as well. So I don't really know which one to go with next. So I'll just go with the one that's in my hand. It's The Deer Hunter. This is from Michael Cimino. One of my all-time favourite films. I did actually do a video on this release a few years ago when I bought it. A bit of an unboxing, so do go and check that out. I'll link it below. It's a great package. You get so much in here. You get the 4K disc, a Blu-ray, tons and tons of bonus material. There's a booklet, there's a soundtrack. It's in this thick box with this really cool artwork. I actually really like this. I know some people didn't, but hey, that's taste, that's artwork, isn't it? The only thing that annoys me about this, if you know me, I don't like ratings logos, especially on the spine. Is it necessary to have these on the spine? No, it's not. So that's one gripe about this. But the film itself looks so good on 4K. Michael Cimino, brilliant director. Between Deer Hunter, Heaven's Gate, and Thunderbolt and Lightfoot, those 3 films are incredible. And they place Michael Cimino as one of my favourite directors. I know people say I say that about every director, but I genuinely mean it. He's a great director. So that's why The Deer Hunter is one of my favourite 4K packages. The next of my favourite 4K discs is a little film that you may have heard about, 2001: A Space Odyssey from Stanley Kubrick. You don't need me to talk about this film much because everyone knows this film. One of the most iconic films of all time. Stanley Kubrick really revolutionized the sci-fi genre and filmmaking as a whole with this movie. And the 4K disc looks really, really good. There were some issues that people took with some of the colour timing on this. They said the colours don't look natural to how they'd seen the film before, which it's an interesting discussion because you can have films with different colour timing and it can bring a different effect to the film, and it doesn't necessarily mean the film looks bad. The film can still look pleasing with different colour timing. And this restoration was actually overseen by Christopher Nolan, who obviously knows a lot about the 4K format and knows a lot about filmmaking and getting a film to look good. So that's what I'll say. I think the film looks amazing, but some people say the colours are off. Another reason I love this release is the packaging, because it's in this nice hardbound case. You get some art cards inside, and the Blu-ray is housed inside as well. It's really shiny and it's embossed here, and there's artwork on the back, and the spine looks great. There's no ratings logo. The ratings logos on this were actually peelable, so you could peel them off. The only gripe I have with this release, and it's a really strange one, is this here, this HDR information. They chose to print this on the case. This should have been a sticker, surely. It's a sticker on a lot of 4K releases. I don't know why they chose to print this on a collector's edition box set. It completely boggles the mind why they chose to keep that on the case. So I'll never know why, but it's a great release. The 4K disc looks great. And yes, I do also have the 4K steelbook. So I've double dipped on the 4K release of 2001. but why not? It's 2001. And the last of my top 5 4K collector's packages is Blade Runner from Ridley Scott, starring Harrison Ford. This is a great package. This was released when Blade Runner was released on 4K Blu-ray a few years ago, and I don't know if this is still available, because I know there's a standard 4K Blu-ray disc out there now. But you get this in this nice box set. It's a nice hardbound box. Inside you get a booklet with artwork and storyboards and stuff like that. You get some Blu-ray discs and the 4K disc. And it's a great package. And it does, thankfully, come with peelable ratings logos. I've just not peeled these off yet. I want to do it properly. And the one on the spine is peelable as well. So the case itself is brilliant, and it's a good display piece. And, you know, I love the origami unicorn, which is obviously a big symbol in the film. And you don't need me to tell you why Blade Runner is a great film and a really iconic piece of cinema. So Blade Runner, one of my favourite 4K releases. I just love this film, and it looks so good on 4K, so much better than the previous Blu-ray. So I'm very thankful to have this in my collection. So there you have it. That's a brief rundown of my top 5 4K Blu-rays that are in my collection. Like I mentioned, my collection isn't massive, so there are probably a lot of great 4K discs that I didn't mention in this video. But if you've got some favourite 4K discs, I would love to hear what yours are in the comments below. So please do let me know. If you want to stick around on the channel, just take a look at whatever video is going to be suggested to you on the screen now, because I'm sure you can get some other good recommendations from me in some other videos. Anyway, until next time, keep well and keep watching great films.